This is the Iowa Weather Report for Wednesday, September 30th, 2015. Now our first look at the 0Z GFS Model Run at 1 p.m. this afternoon. We have a northwesterly flow in the upper levels. Trough axis just to our east. That is taking the rain that we saw yesterday morning off to our east across the eastern seaboard. But the main weather story this week is going to be Tropical Storm Joaquin, which is forecast to become a hurricane later today, more than likely. It's slowly going to drift west and then will turn and head northward just off the eastern seaboard. There's very little confidence in where it could go after it starts to turn north, but with this system staying down there and moving up the eastern seaboard, it's going to keep our weather pattern fairly quiet. Today, tomorrow, as you can see here, sunny, highs in the 60s, lows in the 40s. It's still the case here as we move into Friday. There'll be a system off to our west, but don't worry about that for a while. We're still watching Joaquin, which doesn't look like it's moving a whole lot, but it is moving, barely. But it will start to move northward, as you can see here by the weekend, and it's going to spiral in a lot of rainfall across the mid-Atlantic into the north and east. Strong winds between this high pressure in Canada and the center of what could be Hurricane Joaquin at the time. A lot of beach erosion is possible along the mid-Atlantic coast. The GFS, now this is a model, shows the system moving into the mid-Atlantic here on Sunday. There's very little confidence in this at this point, but this is a model, so it's showing it moving up into the mid-Atlantic, and then it slowly just meanders over the New England states, the mid-Atlantic. A lot of heavy rain there, potential for fairly decent flooding there as well. But here, it's still sunny, it's still cool, it's still in the 60s. The system finally begins to move away, becomes extratropical. There's still to be some lingering rain as we move into the early part of next week. We'll see what happens with that, but that's going to finally begin to move the systems along. And as you can see here, we're going to have a system approaching from the west by next weekend, or by next week, next Wednesday, in fact. You can see the system moving into the plains in the upper Midwest. And that could bring us some showers and maybe a few thunderstorms at the time. It'll also warm the temperatures by early next week. We could see readings back into the lower and middle 70s, which will be above average for this time of the year as we move into the first week of October. Going into the extended period around the 11th of October, fairly quick flow from the west to the east, bit of a trough axis, fairly negatively tilted trough over mainly eastern Canada and the Canadian Maritimes, and it's a quick moving flow, but the main storm track will be well to our north. What does that mean? It means it's going to be warm. Looking at the middle of October, maybe highs in the 70s. That could be 10 degrees above average if that's to be correct, but it's still a model, so we still have some very little confidence in that, especially when we have very little confidence in where Joaquin is going to be going. This is here October the 15th, the end of the forecast. The storm track is now further to the south, so it should look to get more active as we move toward the middle of the month, but again, this is a model. So it's just telling us what it could be doing, but confidence is fairly low even in the next couple of days with the whereabouts of where Joaquin could go. Speaking of Joaquin, here's the satellite image from last evening, and you can see it fairly clearly over here east of the Bahamas. We have an upper level low situated in the pretty much the mid-south region, the Ohio River Valley, and the flow coming in from the southwest has been keeping it rather rainy across the east. That's why there's some flash flood watches there along with that, plus where Joaquin could go. Frost and freeze advisories in the upper Great Lakes. Fairly quiet elsewhere across the country at this point. And with the QPF chart here, this is precipitation through Sunday evening at 7 o'clock, showing a lot of precipitation possible in the mid-Atlantic into the north and east. Some out to our west, but around here it's going to be fairly quiet, and it could be for at least the next week.